This is quiet horror.
There was a period when I couldn't sleep through the night. Nothing dramatic, no nightmares, no panic attacks. Just that strange middle state where your body is tired, but your mind refuses to fully shut down. I'd wake up at 2 o'clock, then 3:14, then 4:02, always with the same feeling that I had missed something. Not that something had happened, just that something had been happening quietly while I was asleep. That was why I bought the indoor camera. I told myself it was practical. A small security camera for the hallway outside my bedroom, wide-angle lens, motion alerts, night vision, cloud storage. One of those cheap models with a reassuring blue light and an app that made everything feel under control. I placed it high on the bookshelf facing the corridor. From that angle, it could see three things clearly: my bedroom door, the bathroom door opposite it, and the short stretch of hallway leading to the kitchen. The first few nights, it captured exactly what I expected. Nothing. A static black and white hallway, occasional compression glitches. Once a moth flew past the lens and set off an alert. Another time, the curtains near the kitchen shifted because I had left the window open. Normal. Boring. Safe. Then on the sixth night, I woke up to a notification on my phone. Motion detected. 3:17 a.m. I checked the clip immediately. The hallway was empty. No movement, no person, no door opening, no shadow crossing the frame, just the same silent corridor in gray night vision. I watched it twice, then a third time. Nothing. I assumed it was a bug. Infrared cameras do that sometimes. Dust, light fluctuation, software being oversensitive, so I ignored it. The next morning, there was another alert. Motion detected. 3:17 a.m. Same result, empty hallway. Third night, motion detected. 3:17 a.m. Again, nothing. By the fourth time, it stopped feeling like a glitch. Bugs are random. This wasn't random. It was punctual. Every single night, at exactly 3:17, the camera detected motion in the hallway outside my room. And every single clip showed absolutely nothing there. I started testing the system in the daytime. I walked in and out of frame, opened doors, stood still, crawled low near the floor, even waved a blanket around to see how much movement it needed to register. The camera worked perfectly. It only flagged motion when something visible entered the frame. So why was it detecting something at 3:17? I checked the event log. Every alert had the same duration, 7 seconds. Not 6, not 8, 7. That detail bothered me more than it should have. A false trigger should vary. A passing insect, a signal hiccup, shifting exposure, none of that should repeat with that kind of precision. But this did. Every night, exactly 3:17, exactly 7 seconds. I began staying awake to catch it live. The first night I tried, I made coffee and sat in bed with the phone open, camera feed on mute, brightness low. 3:12, 3:14, 3:16, nothing. At 3:17, my phone vibrated. Motion detected. I looked up from the screen and into the hallway beyond my half-open bedroom door. Nothing was there. I looked back at the live feed. Still nothing. Just the empty corridor in monochrome. Then the alert ended. 7 seconds. I remember sitting there in the dark, listening to the refrigerator hum in the kitchen and the blood in my own ears, thinking something was wrong with me. Not with the camera. With me. Because I had been staring directly at the hallway when it happened. And if something moved there, I should have seen it. Unless it hadn't moved through the hallway. Unless it had moved inside the frame in some way I couldn't recognize. That thought stayed with me all day. That evening, I went through the older clips again. Frame by frame this time. Nothing. 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 The image quality was poor, of course. Night vision always makes everything look flat and far away. Corners lose detail first. Dark areas collapse into a single shade of gray. I opened one clip in an editor and increased the contrast. Still nothing. Then I raised the brightness. At first, all it did was make the footage uglier. Grain, noise, digital specks boiling in the dark. But then the far left corner of the frame changed. Not by much, just enough. There was a shape there. I froze the video. The corner I had ignored for days, where the hallway wall met the edge of the bookshelf, was not empty. There was something in it. Not standing in the hallway, not walking through, just already there. A vertical darkness, thinner than a person should be, pressed so tightly into the corner that the camera had almost merged it with the wall. That was why I hadn't seen it before. It wasn't entering the frame. It had been in the frame the whole time. The motion alert wasn't triggered because something came into view. It was triggered because something in the corner was moving so slightly, so slowly, that the camera barely registered it. I watched the clip again with the brightness raised. For the first 2 seconds, it looked still. Then I saw it. The shape leaned. Not outward. Not toward the hallway. Toward my bedroom door. Only a fraction. A tiny shift, almost polite. The way someone might lean to look through a crack without wanting to be noticed. The clip ended before it returned to its original position. I sat there for a long time without moving. My apartment was quiet. The camera was still mounted above the bookshelf. The hallway outside my room looked exactly the same as it always had. And yet I suddenly knew, with complete certainty, that the camera had not been watching an empty corridor. It had been watching something hiding in it. I told myself there had to be another explanation. A coat hanging on a hook, a vacuum cleaner handle, a folded drying rack, some object in deep shadow taking on a human shape under overexposed footage. So I went out into the hallway and turned on every light. There was nothing in that corner. No furniture, no coat stand, nothing tall, narrow, or dark enough to create that silhouette. Just wall. I even stood in the corner myself and tried to recreate the shape from the camera angle. I couldn't. If a person had been standing there, part of their shoulder or arm would have broken the line. But whatever was in the clip seemed impossibly narrow, almost flattened, as though it didn't occupy space the way a body should. That night, I didn't sleep. I stayed in bed with the bedroom door shut and locked. At 3:17, the notification came again. I didn't open it. I don't know why. Fear, maybe, or the certainty that the moment I looked, I would see that same shape in the corner, leaning just slightly toward me. In the morning, I checked anyway. This time, the brightened clip showed more. The shape was still in the corner. Still nearly invisible. Still leaning, but now it was leaning farther than before. Far enough that I could distinguish what should have been a head. It was angled toward my door, toward the narrow strip of darkness beneath it, as if it were listening. I went cold all over, because that meant something worse than it merely standing there. It meant that every night for 7 seconds, it came out just enough to check whether I was awake. I called customer support that afternoon. I don't know what I expected from them. A firmware explanation, a technical fault, anything. The woman on the line asked me to send the clip. I did. She put me on hold for 6 minutes. When she came back, her voice had changed. Flat, cautious. She told me the camera appeared to be functioning normally. I said, then what is triggering the motion detection? She paused and said, movement in the monitored area. That answer irritated me. I said, there's nothing there. Another pause. Then she asked a question I still think about. Is the bedroom occupied by one person? I remember going completely still. I asked her what she meant. She said she was only verifying room activity for false positive analysis. I asked if she could see something in the clip. She said no, too quickly. Then she suggested I reset the device and ended the call. That night, I unplugged the camera. I didn't want another alert. I didn't want another clip. I didn't want proof of anything. For the first time in a week, there was no notification at 3:17. I should have felt relieved. Instead, I lay awake in bed, staring at the ceiling, feeling something worse grow in the silence. Because the alerts had stopped, but that didn't necessarily mean the movement had stopped. It only meant I was no longer being told about it. Around 3:30, I got up and opened the bedroom door. The hallway was dark. No sound, no figure. I stood there for maybe 10 seconds, phone flashlight trembling in my hand. Then I noticed the camera. Even unplugged, its lens was angled slightly differently than before. Not much, just a few degrees lower. Enough that it was no longer aimed at the hallway. It was aimed directly at my bedroom door. I told myself I had bumped it while unplugging it. I told myself that twice. Then I went to put the phone light on the bookshelf and saw a print in the dust beside the camera mount. Long, narrow, not a handprint, more like the impression of several thin points resting there for balance, as though something had been leaning close to the camera, close enough to watch the room through it. I took the camera down that morning and threw it away in the bin across the street. I didn't even reset it. I wanted it gone. For a while, things improved. I slept better, no alerts, no compulsive checking, no waking at 3:17. I almost convinced myself the whole thing had been a stress episode built around bad footage and insomnia. Then 2 weeks later, I woke up in the middle of the night and saw light coming from my phone. Not a call, not a message. A notification preview on the lock screen. From an app I had already deleted. It said, motion detected, 3:17 a.m. I stared at it for a full second before unlocking the phone. The app opened. The old camera account was still logged in, and there was a new clip. I don't know how that was possible. The camera was gone. I had thrown it away myself, but the clip was there. Black and white hallway, bedroom door, bathroom door, kitchen beyond. Same angle, same view. Only now the brightness was already high. High enough that I didn't need to adjust it. The corner was empty. Whatever had been hiding there before was no longer there. For a moment, I actually felt relief. Then I saw why the motion had been triggered. My bedroom door at the right side of the frame was open. Not wide, just enough. And from the darkness inside my room, something thin was leaning out into the hallway, in exactly the same way the shadow used to lean from the corner. As if, after all those nights of watching, it had finally learned where to stand. Some stories should stay unheard.